All right, what's up, you dirtbags? Happy Dirtbags episode number 104. My name is Luke Egebrot, and I will be your host of the Dirtbags podcast today. Uh, we are so excited to bring you this episode. Just finished up. As you guys will hear in a few minutes here, so we have Stone Hughes joining us on the Dirtbags podcast from God's Country Land Services. What we always want to do with the podcast is, as you guys know, always give you guys different perspectives. How are people doing it all across the world? What else is different? Give me some new ideas. And so, what I love about Stone, he's a great client of ours at Phaser, and he's doing things a lot differently than most. And uh, what he's doing that is so different is, for one, he's paying everything in cash. And so, equipment, mulching heads, skid steers, like whatever it is, he's paying for it in cash. And typically in this industry, that just isn't the case. And so it's really cool to dive in on this episode, as you guys will hear coming up, of how he's doing that, why he's doing that, and how he's seeing some success with that. And I think the important piece to know is that for everyone listening, no matter what you hear on this podcast ever, like, you have to make your own decisions for your own company. And so what this episode and all these episodes do is give you ideas for what is out there and what is possible, maybe inspire you, give you educational information, or even entertain you. And what you take from that, you need to filter as well to know what's best for your situation and what's best for your business. So, super great episode coming up for you guys here with Stone. And it's just he's a wealth of knowledge and energy. And it was really cool to hear his perspective on all this in our episode number 104 coming up. A couple other things we got for you guys. We've got our Phaser fundraiser coming up. This is this month in October. I've talked about it before, October 30th. It's a Thursday. For one, I want to say massive thank you to a lot of you listeners. You've reached out from the last couple episodes and actually wanted to sponsor our fundraiser. Quick overview on what it is. This is our 5th year we're doing our Phaser fundraiser. All the money we raise each year goes to the Boys and Girls Club of Detroit Lakes, Minnesota, which is my hometown. So the first year we did it in 2020, I was part-time in Phaser. I just wanted to do something more and raise money for our community. We raised $6,000. The year after that, we raised $20,000. After that, we raised $30,000, and then last year we raised $40,000. This year, we want to crush that goal. We want to go so much higher than 40K, and that's what we have our sights on. And so we couldn't do it without a lot of you guys listening, our clients, and people in the dirt world that want to support a great cause through us. And I want to give a huge shout out. These are just some of our current sponsors, and you'll probably recognize a lot of them, a lot of familiar names on here. So, huge shout out to these sponsors. And we have 3 different levels: a bronze sponsorship, which is $500, a gold sponsorship, which is $1,500, and a diamond, which is $3,000 and more. So, if anyone's interested, shoot me a text when you hear this. It's coming up in the next few weeks at the end of the month here. My cell number is 218-234-7345. Massive shout out to Moritz Excavating, JCR Excavating, the Snow Jobs podcast. You guys know them. Sutton Outdoor, Ryan Archer, Horizon Real Estate Group, Anderson Septic, Innovative Lawn and Landscape, Sapphire Construction, Badger Earthworks, Canadian Septic, and he's our 2024 guest host of the year. True North Excavating, 641 Excavating. They actually donated their winnings from episode 100 from winning that $500 cash prize. Morgan and John said, give it to the fundraiser, give it to the kids. We have Ace Contractors, WDS Contracting, Decker's Land Solutions, Ultimate Excavation, Pro Resources, Lake Shirts, the Boys and Girls Club Thrift Store, BTD, Modern Woodman Fraternal Financial, Venom Products, and Tony Stensgaard with Edward Jones. Thank you to everyone that has reached out to support. We're not done yet. We're going to keep pushing. We're going to see what we can do. We're going to try and crush our $40,000 goal from last year and really make a dent this year for them. So like I said, shoot me a text, 218-234-7345 if you'd like to support in any way. It really, really means a lot. I don't want to keep you guys here too much longer. Want to get you into the episode. As you know, this is a free podcast for you guys to listen to. If you guys get any value, like and subscribe wherever you listen, whether that's YouTube, Spotify, or Apple Podcasts. Comment on any of the episodes, just letting us know what you think. That all really helps the algorithm and has really been bumping our show up the ranks. So we can't do any of this without you guys. And as you guys will hear, of course, in the episode, we've got three incredible sponsors. The more you guys, interact with them and reach out to them, the more it means, to me and to them. And it just really helps move this ship along. So thank you guys for everything. Thank you for listening. I want to bring to you episode 104 with the man himself, Stone Hughes from God's Country Land Services. Let's get into the episode. Here we go. All right, what's up, you dirtbags? This is Luke Egebraten back in studio, in the Dirtbag studio. As you guys can see on YouTube, I've got my Great Divide Earthworks hoodie. My guy, Dave Newby, getting me hooked up. I don't know if you can see the back here. I'll show you what it looks like.
There you go.
Unbelievable guy, unbelievable company. He's out of Wyoming, and just a great friend. Also representing Mr. Crush Mode, Micah Tisver out of Minnesota. He's right on the border of Minnesota and North Dakota. He was on the Dirtbags podcast, as you guys had heard as well. Got these sweet Richardson 112 white camouflage hats, and he sent me one, and can't thank him enough. So, repping two great friends for this very special episode, and we're about to bring in the man himself for this episode number 104. 104 episodes. We knew we had to make it a special episode. So I'm so excited to welcome in my friend, mentor, client of Phaser, Dirtbags listener, um, debt free man himself, Stone Hughes from God's Country Land Services. How we doing, brother?
That's right. That's right. Where's the red carpet, man? I'm looking for
Yeah.
it.
Man, I should have, of course, there's that intro could have gone on so much longer. So excited to have you on the show. You've been listening to the show for a while. We've been hanging out, talking for a while, and it was just episode 104 was meant to be your episode. So how are we doing? How are we feeling? You have a beautiful lawn behind you out in
Thank you.
Michigan.
That's
How are we
right.
feeling, man?
Yeah, I'm great, man. Everything's going really well. Yeah, I'm excited to be on. I'll be on the episode here, and it's been a long time coming, that's for sure.
Yeah, I think if I remember right, I think before my trip this summer, I think we tried to get you on, and then I think we just got too busy or we had to move it around. But this worked out much better. So I know we've got a lot to touch on here, and part of that being God's Country Land Services. And so there's a lot to dive into, but talk to me a little bit about what you do and where you're doing it at, and then we'll get into some of the details.
So God's Country Land Services primarily specializes in land clearing, forestry mulching, brush removal, and tree work, tree removal, basically. We do a little bit of driveway work here and there, but I would say that 90, probably 90% of our revenue comes in from vegetation work and doing
Yeah.
forestry mulching and land.
Yeah, and then what type of equipment are you running? Do you have any team members? Give us a little lay of the land on that, and then yeah, kind of what are we running for equipment?
So for equipment, I have a 2024 Bobcat T770. It's got the comfort package on there with high flow hydraulics, and then it's equipped with a forestry package as well. It's got an aftermarket winch and bumper system on the back from Precision Armor. And then I'm running a Fecon Bullhog BH074 SS forestry mulcher. It's a FGT drum, and I usually run knives on it most of the time, a little bit of carbides here and there, but yeah, that's pretty much the revenue generator right there. And then for supporting equipment, I use big tex trailers, and I got a Ram 3500 Cummins that I use to pull everything with.
Dude, I love this. This is this is already so great. The I wanted to wait a little bit to dive into this, but I have to ask how what payments do you have on this equipment? What payments do you have on the mulching head, like the Bobcat? What are we paying in what is your debt to revenue ratio on the equipment right now?
We have zero debt. We are debt free. There is no payments on anything. We are we don't owe a penny to nobody. So the business entity is completely debt free. So
Dude, I mean, obviously I knew that. That's how I had to lead with that. That is for
sure.
so many people impossible. And I understand too, for me to talk about that doesn't make any sense because I don't have to buy the equipment. I don't run an excavation company. I don't do any land management. But I was very excited to have you on this episode and on the Dirtbags podcast because this is a different way to do business. It's not necessarily the right way or the wrong way, but the fact that you're running this thing debt free, I would love to dive into that first and figure out, okay, how do you buy your first piece of equipment? Like, how long did that take to save it up? And then I guess maybe the simple question our listeners might be wondering is why not finance it? Like, why for you pay in cash and not have any payments?
Well, the cost that the company incurs determines the price that I have to give to the market. So the the the, the reduction in my expenses, the least amount of expenses that the business has to operate, the more competitive I can be out in the market because I have less expenses to cover. So
Mm,
I absolutely see no benefit to financing at all. I mean, why would you want to increase your operating costs and your overhead and your equipment owning costs? It just there's no benefit to it. And I don't care if someone says, "Oh, you can write it off, dude. You're trading a dollar for 10 cents. That's stupid, you know." And I like keeping things simple, man. To just keep it simple and just buy things cash and keep it kind of keeps some pressure off your shoulders too. Big
yeah.
time, especially when things get slow, and it does happen. Um, guess who's not panicking?
Yeah. And that's the great thing about business is I always like to say, run your own business. And uh, so many people will have opinions, good opinions, bad opinions, right, wrong, whatever it might be. But that's the beauty of it. You're entitled to your own business and your own opinion. And so I'm fascinated with how you've been able to do this and how you're setting your ways with that too, because I'm also a believer in might as well keep it simple, go debt free. There's a bit more delayed gratification. There's a bit more maybe missing out on some of the tax advantages. But for me and for you, it sounds like it's way simpler. It's in my mind, there's less tabs open when I know I don't owe anyone anything. And
Bingo.
it, but however, it's easy for me to say that running a digital marketing agency and a podcast, where for you out in the field, um, running a land management company, I mean, it's pretty incredible. So if you don't mind, I would love to dive into maybe some of the numbers to start. Like, what was the first piece you had to buy for the company, and how much did it cost?
The first piece of equipment that the company purchased was the Big Tex 30
Hmm.
foot gooseneck flatbed tandem axle trailer. That was our
Hmm.
first piece, and that was about 22,000. No, the listing price was 22, but I came in with cash and got a deal. So I think
There
we
you
came in a little
go.
bit over 21. So yeah, just a little north of 21,000.
Right on, right on. So then 21K, you go in. Were they shocked or surprised, or do people paying cash often at the dealer, or what does that look like?
When you're talking about the sales experience,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, I think when we purchased the trailer, yeah, I definitely believe that the sales guy was a little bit taken back with my method of payment on that. I could see it. I could see it in his face a little bit, but and I did ask him to, for the cash discount as well. And once that part of the conversation began to open up, he did pretty much tell me that not many people come in and pay cash. Usually,
Yeah.
things are financed. And before I even told him I was paying cash, he was already throwing out like credit applications and
Hmm.
trying to get my social and everything. The whole sales process for
Yeah.
credit. And I'm like, hold
Like,
on,
I don't need
dude,
it.
slow down, Turbo. We're not doing that. So
Man, interesting. So,
yeah,
and maybe I should ask this too, because I'm curious. When we say cash, does that mean $100 bills, or is that debit card or a wire, or is it literally
cash,
cash?
cashier's check.
Cashier's check. Okay,
Yeah,
interesting.
yeah.
Um,
They probably won't accept cash like
yeah,
that because it's
walking into
too.
that.
I wish, dude. That'd be sweet. That'd be a baller move.
Yeah, come in
But
with
they
the
think
duffel
it.
bag.
Yeah, dude. It's like handcuffed around your wrist, so no one runs off with it. But they'll probably think like, okay, like, dude, you can't even go to the bank and pull 15 grand out without them asking questions. So if you
Mm,
went to a dealership with cash, they'd probably pretty much suspect that you're a drug dealer and they probably
yeah,
wouldn't even do business with you unless you know the owner and you guys want to, you know, get in together after hours or something, but I don't know what that looks like. So,
yeah, interesting. So, when did you buy that first piece of equipment? Which year was that?
hmm, which year was that? 20 2023,
Okay,
spring of 2023.
so spring 2023, is that when you started getting into this industry, or was it before that?
Oh man. Well, in my mind, I've been in this industry since 2020 when I formulated this whole plan, but I didn't really execute on my first job until early 2024, I would say, like
Hmm.
spring, winter, I would say winter, early spring of 2024.
Hmm.
Yep.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
And
that's when I did my first job.
I can't breeze over this. You mentioned execute your plan from 2020. This has all been in the works for years, it sounds like.
Oh yeah. Oh, dude, this has been an obsession. This has been an obsession of mine day in and day out, every single day for like the past, I would say the past 5 years, man. That's all I've been thinking
Wow.
about. It's just, your obsessions become your possessions.
Wow. Unreal. And I hope the listeners right now can hear that too, because you and I have known each other for a while and we've had many great conversations, and you're very calculated, I would say. Where does that come from? Like, how are you so calculated? And maybe it's part of the obsession as well of business. But what do you think makes you tick when it comes to being so calculated?
Man, I love facts. I love facts. I love numbers.
Mm,
I don't like to make a move unless I got, unless I have it all laid out in an Excel file. Everything's got to be in Excel. I got to see the numbers. Um, I have to I need transparency on every piece of
yeah.
equipment that I own, and I need the understanding of why I charge the way I charge because it gives me the confidence when I'm out in the market
Hmm.
to not bend on my prices. I have that understanding behind my costs because I ran the numbers. I have everything formulated in Excel sheets, and it's just I don't know any other way to operate. I don't know where it comes from. Um, if it just seems like overly logical, but I used to be a PLC programmer. I'm kind of still involved in that industry right now, which is
Hmm.
PLC stands for Programmable Logic Controller, and it's basically a processor that's used in manufacturing systems. So you have to
Hmm.
write a bunch of code. You basically teach ladder logic in this computer, and it executes all these plans. So I got pretty good with doing doing coding, and I carried that experience over to developing Excel sheets that I use to run the business. So with that background, I was like, man, I can really just, crunch these numbers on these Excel sheets for a couple months and just get dialed in. And then everything after that is just perfect execution. You can't go wrong once you see the numbers.
Interesting, interesting. So, got a question off of that then. What would, in your opinion, we'll say, maybe in your business, what are some of the key numbers or metrics that you need to know? And maybe as advice too, that anyone listening should know in their business? So when you're talking spreadsheets, you're talking numbers. What key numbers or metrics do you think are most important to know?
Overhead. You have to know what it costs for your business to operate for its fixed expenses. There's two types of fixed expenses for the type of business that I'm in. You have overhead costs, which are fixed,
Mhm.
and then you have equipment owning costs, which are fixed. So what that means, whether I don't care if you generate, $10 in a week or, 5 grand, those costs have to be covered every single week. So I do a weekly budget. So I have expenses that are due every Friday. So you need to be pulling in, you need to be pulling in the revenue to cover those fixed expenses, no matter what. I
Mhm.
would say, those are huge, and you have to know your operating costs for, running your equipment as well. There's a lot that can, dude, I spent a lot of time. I spent a lot of time reading and developing understanding on what drives cost on this equipment. And there's a lot of information out there. You really got to dig for it. It's really not just out there for everybody to use because it's extremely valuable, but if you want it bad enough, you'll find it. It's out there. Um, but yeah, I think a lot of guys too, they make the mistake of I'm kind of rambling here, but
No, this is great, man. I really like this.
okay. So I've had some people call me on my business phone and they try to get my prices over the phone, and I'm pretty vague. I'm kind of vague when someone asks me that over the phone because I never know who's on the other line. And I usually respond in the same way to every single time that question's asked to me during a phone call. And if, I don't know if you're a qualified lead. I don't know if you're just trying to figure me out or what, but I had one
Yeah.
guy who called me, and I gave him my kind of my standard response to those questions. And he's like, "Oh, I'm just getting in the industry and I'm trying to figure out, what the going rate is." And in the back of my mind, I'm like, dude, you're not going to make it if that's what you're basing your prices off of. You have no idea what goes in, what's built in behind these costs, and you can't just base your prices off of what everyone else is charging. You need to do your homework. You have to do
Yeah.
your homework, and you have to understand the cost behind owning this stuff. It's not cheap. It's not cheap.
Yeah. So with your overhead, I'm really curious about that because we've talked a lot about it on the show. Everyone knows it's very important, but do you have any, um, like with maybe where you're at and your size, like any key targets you're trying to hit? And you mentioned you're doing a weekly budget. Is there a day rate you're trying to hit? Is there a weekly rate? Is there also on the flip side a percentage of your overhead you're trying to keep below? Or what are your thoughts there?
Um, that's a good question, Luke. I don't really have the I don't really have the overhead um worked out as a percentage
Hmm.
into my costs. I guess I'd have to open up the files and take a look and see how much of a percentage the overhead plays into my cost. I really don't
Hmm.
know off the top of my head. No, I don't. I'm not sure, but I know what my margins are. Between my expenses and my revenue. So and
Yeah.
overhead obviously plays into that. So
Yeah. And you mentioned this earlier too, where because you don't have any payments, your overhead is less, and that allows you to be more competitive. But on the flip side too, you also have this great equipment that you understand that you have, and it's allowing you to get the job done better. So you stick to that quality. So does that kind of even you out right in the middle of what most people are typically charging?
I would say, yeah, I think I could be quite a bit cheaper.
Right.
Actually, I think I could be more expensive and still have the same close rate, but that's my goal right now is to get the brand out and to generate brand awareness and to build a reputation. So I'm not really focused on, a revenue goal at this moment.
Hmm.
It's more of like building the brand awareness, and it's getting there. It's definitely getting there.
Yeah, let's talk about that. I mean, obviously, we love that discussion, brand awareness, marketing for this industry. Um, you have 145 Google reviews and you've been doing this for a couple years. Like, how is that even possible? I know you and I have talked a lot about that, but walk me through how you have 145 Google reviews.
Be best friends with your clients. That's the key. I mean, I'm every single one of my clients, I love them. I just got off the phone, dude. Like before we jumped on this call, I actually prayed over this guy. I went and did a job for. He was kind of getting out of his faith a little bit, and like when I got there, he really just he felt really comfortable, and he just poured everything that was going on in his life. He
Mhm.
poured it on me, and it was just crazy, dude. The timing of everything. Like when I got there, it started raining. It was like a beautiful day. And then I pulled into this guy's driveway, dude, and it starts raining. I'm like, what the heck? I'm like, okay. So I get out of the truck and
Yeah.
it's just pouring. And obviously, I'm not going to do a site assessment when it's pouring with this guy. So I get out there and, a couple minutes in the conversation, and dude, he starts telling me all of his struggles that he has experienced lately with his life. And dude, I prayed over him. And like I dude, I told him I loved him. Like he's my brother in Christ. Like it was awesome, dude. And I've done that so many times with my clients. And I think I would have to say that that's the reason why people, always call me back or want to leave me a good review. I'm not really when I go to these jobs, dude, I'm not really focused on the money or the job.
Yeah.
It's about building friendships and relationships. That's my focus. Obviously we got to pull in money to cover costs and stuff, and we're a business, but
Right.
I mean, I would say if you want to pull in some Google reviews, man, just really care for people. Don't make it all about work. I've spent a lot of time, unpaid for time, with clients on jobs, knowing that I'm sowing seeds,
Mhm.
but I'm gonna reap them, in a later time. So I'm willing to give them my unpaid time to develop that relationship. I would say that's really important. If Google reviews are something you want to strive for, love your clients, love them.
Man, that's I appreciate you sharing that too, because I think it just shows how much you do care for each one of your clients. And the fact that, it's not just one here or there, but I'm almost curious too at the volume, to have 145 in a couple years. Are are there are there people leaving reviews that you haven't done a job for that are attesting to your character? Or for somebody that struggles, maybe only has 8 Google reviews right now, and they've been in business for 4 or 5 years, like how do they, and maybe they do love their clients really well, but like how do they go in for the ask, or how do they obtain these reviews?
Make the Google review just as important to you as it is to collect your money. Make it
Mm,
part of the sale. Make it part of the sale. Um, very few clients will willingly leave you a review. You have to ask for it.
yeah.
Um, you have to ask for it. Knock on the door and it'll open. So, I mean, I always ask, what are they going to say? No, I mean, I do a good job,
Yeah.
so how are they going to say no? You know what I mean? I just stress like, hey, I make sure that they know, hey, these are important to me. And,
Mhm.
it would mean a lot to me if you could leave me a review. Now I've done work for some people whose family members have left me a review. Like if I go clear someone's property,
Mhm.
and the grandkids come by and their children come by, aunts and uncles come by, and no, now they're walking trails through this wooded lot that they were never able to access before. They're
Mm,
digging it. Customers got a God's Country shirt on. Family members are asking, "Oh, who did it?" The guy points to the back of his shirt, this dude, and then they're happy with it, and they leave me a Google review. It happens, you know. Yeah, it happens.
yeah, and it's just like prioritizing it too, and I'm pretty biased with this stuff because I know how important it is from a digital marketing standpoint, but with 145 Google reviews and counting, the online space is at your fingertips, and the online opportunity to really scale that up. I like to say that what we do for our business is more so gasoline, and to have a client with that base of Google reviews and building it up from there, like that is the fire that has already been built. And so what we can do is then keep that fire going, but then pour gasoline on it with those reviews. So I mean, dude, it's massive. It's so cool to see, what you've done already. But you're in this
Mm,
for the long haul, right? I mean, this is just one day, one year um, of the business. But I mean, you look at 2035, you're going to be much bigger, much further along. Your reputation, the 5-star reviews, everything about it is going to be much larger as long as you stay consistent.
for sure. Yeah, for sure. I can't do the way like I don't I don't want to sound conceited, but I just or like I'm bragging or anything, but dude, I can't fail. Like there's no way I'm failing. There's no way this thing's going under. If
Hmm.
as long as the business is coming in, we're gonna be huge. It's gonna be a big
Yeah.
deal. So
Yeah.
there's no way this is going under, dude. I just, everything is just, everything is accounted for so precisely. And, it wasn't like that in the beginning. Def, a little bit of bobbing and weaving and trying to find my way, early
Hmm.
on because I've never been in this industry before.
Right.
Um, figuring out what type of sales tactics work. Dude, I even have like a thing where like it's like a progressive trust thing I build with my clients. Like when I first meet them, it always starts off with like a handshake, and I just have
Hmm.
like I just do some body language things that people really seem to like. Um and I definitely don't like go to a job site trying to put off this image that I'm superior or I'm like a overly masculine or something. I'm just I always make sure that people feel comfortable around me, you know and then usually at the end of the job it always ends up being always a big hug. Usually at the end of
Yeah.
my jobs that's what they turn into. You know People invite me, dude. I've had people invite me over to their houses for holidays and stuff, and it's just like be their friend. If
Yeah.
you build clients that are your friends, they're never leaving you. They're never going to leave you, and that's what I've done with every client.
Yeah, that's so awesome, man. And for everyone listening right now, we've got Stone Hughes on the podcast. You can give him a follow on Instagram at God's Country Land Services, and also check out his website, godscountrylandservices.com. You'll see a familiar name at the bottom. It is managed by Phaser Marketing, and yeah, Stone. It's been. I was just telling you before we started recording, our team has really taken a liking to you, and they're just like, oh, Stone he's so funny. You're so dialed in too, and you're so calculated, but also just have such a great attitude towards life. And would you attribute that to your faith? Would you attribute that to your family, your business, your what you do on a day-to-day basis, or how do you come in with such high energy and positivity each day?
Well, it's not always like that. I'm kind of, getting hyped up for the I'm trying to build myself up here for your podcast. So I want to put on a good show for everybody. But, yeah, things get stressful, man. My schedule is super tight right now, so I haven't spent a whole lot of time as much as I'd like to with my wife and children. But my wife and I are working on that as far as, allocating specific days for the family.
Mhm.
Yeah, I would say my faith definitely comes first and foremost. Where God guides, he provides. I know
Mhm.
that. And I prayed about this whole journey for a long time, and
Mhm.
things have unfolded in the perfect timing for opportunities and conditions to come together in my favor. So I know in all this, God's got my back. I would say second in place comes my wife. Rock
Mhm.
star, dude. Best friend. Trust her more than anybody. She's beautiful. I love her, dude. She's my best friend. So,
That's awesome.
um, yeah, I love spending time with her, and she supports me 100%. She's actually supposed to refill my drink, so I don't know where she's at, uh, but she ran the extension cords out here, like helped me get set up. But she's awesome, dude. Love her.
That's I love that you said that about your wife too, because um I spilled my beer. I don't know if you noticed earlier, and Olivia, my wife, came up with paper towels and during the
Cute.
podcast episode. So yeah, I now
Just
also
now
have
on this one?
oh yeah, you didn't even notice like 10
Oh
minutes
shoot.
ago. But I
Oh,
also
okay.
now
All
have an
right.
empty drink, so
Where you at?
oh that's so awesome, man. I love that. And then I do want to dive into that a little bit more here. You did mention, some of the harder parts about running a business, and um how do you balance spending time with your wife, your kids, your hobbies while also trying to get God's Country Land Services rolling and off the ground like it is?
Well, I can say honestly, there has been no time for hobbies. I haven't done any hobbies in probably a couple years.
Mm,
I enjoy motocross and riding ATVs, exercising, running, and there really hasn't been any of that
hmm.
in the past couple years. And that's kind of been hard to deal with, but I'm willing to put in the work right now for a better payoff, down
Yeah,
the road. So, yeah, definitely no hobbies, which kind of stinks. But yeah, I mean, with the wife and kids, man, it's just you got to designate you you have I would say budget your time. That's something I need to work on a little bit more, but
hmm,
you should budget your time and your money, both valuable resources. Time is more valuable than money, but definitely create a budget for your time and tell yourself what to do within certain time blocks so you can, have mm, that allocated time, with what you want to do. So
yeah. All right, you dirtbags. I want to give a massive shout out to our podcast sponsor, Sledgehammer. Uh, as many of you know, we could not do this show without Sledgehammer's support. Massive shout out to their entire team. Of course, we all know Will, Dr. Wickham, and the rest of their crew there based out in Michigan. At Sledgehammer, they're not just treating wastewater, they're transforming it by introducing their cutting edge microbiology into conventional septic systems. Sledgehammer is changing the scope of environmental engineering. But their secret, it's not complex machinery, it's smart biology. As we mentioned before, this is developed by Dr. Wickham decades ago and has continuously been innovated through time. This is their Sledgehammer blend, which is trademarked, is a proprietary mix of naturally occurring bacteria that supercharges your existing septic system, converting it into one of the most efficient and eco-friendly wastewater treatment systems on the planet. So, huge shout out to Sledgehammer for being such a big supporter of the Dirtbags podcast. If you want, you can reach out to them. Another thing that they are providing is their installer network partnership program. Definitely give them a call, reach out to them to learn more about that, how you can add that as a service into your septic company, um, create better solutions for your customers, and also make extra revenue with a new service. So, give our friends at Sledgehammer a follow at Sledgehammer Group Ltd on Instagram, or check out their fancy new website, sledgehammer.net.
but lately it's been, like lately there's just been a ton of sewing taking place
Hmm.
on the aspect of building the brand awareness and getting my name out there. That's kind of been really taking up probably 80% of my schedule right now is just
Mhm.
doing estimates, doing the advertising, creating content, and just figuring out ways to network with people. Like I got a side by side ride that I'm sponsoring for charity that's in a couple weeks, so that'll be another event that's going to require my presence. But the wife's going to be there, so I mean we can both do it together. But yeah, man, lately, like I would say like this past year is just like a ton of sewing on the
Hmm.
business end. A lot of energy, a lot of effort, a lot of focus time, thought, preparation, uh revising my systems, um, thinking about ways where, I can improve. So it's really consuming a lot lately.
Yeah. It makes me think too, um, are there times where, business becomes a higher priority than your faith?
Yeah, that's happened. Yeah.
How do you feel about that?
Um, Sad about it, I'd say. I mean, I think I need to change it, you know? Yeah, yeah, I should change it. I should, but I kind of get addicted to this business stuff, It's like, man,
Mhm.
I get addicted to it, Like I genuinely believe that people need my help and they reach out to me and it's like, man, even today, dude, I had someone call me for an estimate and I'm like, oh, I don't want to let them off the phone until I got something booked. Like I try to never ever hang that phone up unless I have a date and a time and location set with them, you know.
Yeah.
That's just something I'm dead set on. But even today, like I had somebody call me, they're local, they're only 20 minutes away, and they're like, when can you come out? And I'm like, well, hang on, let me look at my schedule. And it's like Sunday, you know, it's the only day available is Sunday.
Yeah.
I'm just like, gosh, man. I'm like, all right, can you do Sunday at 5 o'clock? You know what I
Yeah.
mean? It's just like he's so close, and I try to justify it, but yeah, I mean, yeah, I would definitely say that business has been a higher priority
Hmm.
unintentionally for me lately. But I
Yeah.
want that to change. And I think it's going to once there's been enough sowing in the
Yeah.
process.
Yeah. It's tricky too, right? Because so quickly we can idolize some of these things that we think is good in our life. And all of these things are good in our lives, but I think it's the order in which they go. Like you're talking about too, with your number one priority being your faith, your number two being your wife, your number three being your kids. I didn't hear business in those top three. And so I think that's just it's interesting too when I look at myself as well. And I'll get in these spurts of just becoming obsessed with business. And it can be healthy, absolutely. And it's just the entrepreneurial grind. But when that consumes you and when I start to idolize that, I know I need to get myself in check and reprioritize my life and make sure that um, what is most important is taking up the most amount of my focus, I would say. Because, and
Right,
then to be fair as well, um, the more you and I focus on our faith in Jesus, seemingly he will provide with our business or he will make sure that we're going down the path we need to go down. And we can see that so much clearer. And a lot of times we just want to do it ourselves. We think we have all the control and we push them to the side. So I just think recentering myself into my priorities, um, sometimes you just stray away from them. And that's definitely happens to me.
right, right. Yeah, I mean, it's easy to say what my priorities are, but like what I say my priorities are what I want them to be, but sometimes what actually happens is a little bit different, and I'm trying to I don't know, I guess make myself feel comfortable with it because, I'm doing it for it's not like I'm involved in sin.
Hmm.
I'm building a brand, I'm building a business, I'm providing for my family. I'm praying over people at jobs, I preach to people, not at every job, but it happens. I have the opportunity to preach the gospel to people,
Hmm.
which is bigger than anything. I mean, who cares about anything other than that? And that stance, it's obviously, you know, important to God, to do that. So I try to justify it like, oh, I'm doing a good thing. And I know I am. I'm helping people and it's good activity, it's healthy activity, but definitely needs some um definitely could use a check-in and to realign myself. But it's addicting, dude. Like when you're so good at something and people pay you for it, like it's a hard valve to close.
Yeah. Yeah. And also too, I mean, we are stewards of these businesses. Like we are meant to have these businesses grow and be good managers of them. So that is a huge part of it. Um, and yeah, I mean, it's been really cool to watch you and work with you too on that process and getting to talk with you over the years, and then now officially getting to work with you has been just a blast. So
Mm.
uh, I know we talked about, the last few years and where we want to go as a business, but what does the what does the 5 year mark look like? I know you're very calculated. Have you looked out that far into what you'd want this to look like?
Not when I started off, I did have a 5-year plan. By
Hmm.
2028, I had a specific plan, and I'm still focusing on that same plan, even though it's only pretty much 3 years from basically in a couple weeks will be in October, a couple days will be in October. But yeah, so I'm still focused on that same 5-year plan, but now I'm coming up on a 3-year mark for the same
Yeah.
plan.
What
Um,
does that look like? That 3 year 2028 mark? What does the business look like?
I want 4 more machines paid for.
Okay.
and four more operators working with me, four more team members working with
Okay.
me.
Right on. And then would it be a similar setup? It'd be all land management. Would you spur off into any other services, or would you just start building out crews that you could deploy for a similar type of job?
Yeah, I would say stay focused and stay honed in on what we're doing right now, which is forestry mulching and land clearing.
Yep.
That's I really you know, maybe getting a little bit of excavation work, but I really don't see it going outside of that scope of work. You know, specialty. You have to, you have to specialize and
hmm
specialize in your knowledge, in your skill set. That's where the money's at, as in
Yeah.
specialty. You're not going to
Yeah.
get, the jack of all trades doesn't make crap for money. You know, you have to specialize. That's where the value is found, and that's where people are willing to pay. You know, like, dude, you ever go on Facebook? Like I'm part of these pages in my area. Like, these towns, like these cities and these counties that have like Facebook pages set up where people can
Yeah.
go in there and, complain about a lost dog that they found or whatever, or lost animals. It seems like that's all everyone wants to talk about. But, people throw up a post on there like, oh, I'm looking, like I just seen it this morning, like, oh, I'm looking for someone to come dig a trench. And some dude will post on there. It's like Jim's Chimney Services. It's like, dude, no one's no one's gonna look at you and think, oh, Jim's Chimney Service. I'm gonna hire him to go dig a trench. It's like, no, you got to stay in your lane. That's where that's where value is gonna be found, and that's where people are gonna pay most, is in your skill set, in your specialized knowledge. Does that make
Yeah. Absolutely. And I will say there are people that will hire the chimney service to come dig a trench. However, those are the clients you don't want to be working with typically because they don't value quality. They don't value that human relationship. It's just the lowest cost. Hey, just come get it done. I don't care who you are. And typically, that's not the type of client you want to be working with. Like you want to build this long-term client relationship with them, but also give them value, help them solve their problems, and be there for them for the future as well. So,
sure?
uh, I gotta ask Stone, what do you like most about the forestry mulching, land clearing industry? I mean, what is it that fires you up most about it?
Well, I was in desperate need of having these services done on my property. So I know how frustrating it can be to own a piece of land and not being able to utilize it, access it,
Yeah.
explore it. So I'm on 10.5 acres, and there was a good portion of it was just overgrown with like this invasive vegetation. And like I always envisioned of the land being purposed in a way where I could enjoy it, my family could enjoy it. And it was just frustrating. So I know what homeowners and property owners are experiencing. I'm pretty much I'm kind of like a step ahead of them
hmm
during like my sales process, because I already know what they're thinking, because I've been there and I've done that. And that's one of the biggest reasons why I started this company, was from
hmm
my own frustration dealing with guys trying to come out here. And that was a whole nightmare. We can get into that on another topic, but
I would love to.
oh, dude, it was ridiculous. The things I've experienced with guys in my area, land clearing contractors. It was just a joke. But yeah, that's what really fires me up. I kind of already know what they're looking for. I would say 80% of my customers are all looking for the same thing.
Yeah.
So, and I've been in their shoes. I know what they're looking for. And I just kind of, like, when I'm walking doing site assessments, I just keep my mouth shut and I'm like just listening,
hmm
listening and taking notes. And then, but inside my mind, I'm like smiling because I already know, what the result is going to be and what they're looking for. So that's what really fires me up.
So, I mean, we can't just leave the listeners hanging on that. We got to take half step back and talk about, yeah, I guess your experience that also sounds like fueled the fire for you to start this business.
It was.
Give us some stories here. What happened? Were they just overshooting you and not showing you respect, or is it just the price, or what was that process like? And you mentioned 10.5 acres at your place. What was that process like when you tried to get that done?
Yeah, I mean, so I'm a power sports enthusiast, so I ride, motocross bikes, and my wife's got a 450. I mean, she rips too.
Let's
Um,
go.
yeah, oh yeah, yeah.
Badass.
It's been a while. I mean, it's not a 450 dirt bike, so It's a quad, it's a TRX, but she knows how to ride and stuff, and she's hit some trails and stuff with me. But having those recreational vehicles in my garage and seeing that land, I'm just like, man, I just want to go out there and ride. It's
Yeah.
fun. And so I did just basically what anybody would do if they were looking for services. I just simply got on the internet and looked for like land clearing contractors in my area,
Yeah.
and I
Love
called
it.
out I called out a couple contractors, man, and they were just extremely unprofessional.
Mm,
I was just like really set back and really disappointed in their demeanor, and their manners and the way that they carried themselves. Yeah, just super disappointing, and it really beat me up that these guys could conduct themselves in that manner and still be business owners, and I
mm,
just when they came on site with me, I just seen so many flaws in their presentation and just the way they did things. I'm like, man, I could do this. I could do this 100 times better than you. Um, and it was just so anyway. I mean, I still needed the work done regardless of how they presented themselves. It was just kind of like, pick the poison kind of thing. And
sure.
yeah, so a couple of these guys, I agreed to the prices that were given to me, and I started saving my money up because it's usually not a cheap service. And back at that time I was, in my mid 20s or whatever. But yeah, so I agreed to their quotes, their estimates. I saved up my money. It's probably like a $5,000 or $6,000 job that was
Yeah.
going to take place on my property there. And yeah, I took time off work, put in days for vacation, and like the day before, so this guy was probably about 6 weeks out on work, and so he put me on a schedule, and like the day before that, the day of services were to take place, I texted him. I said, "Hey, I want to make sure that, we're still on for tomorrow," which is stupid. Why should I have to follow up with you? You're the business owner. You should be following up with me.
Mm, hmm.
So he already lost points with that, but and his response to me after 6 weeks of time and me saving my money and stuff, he said, I'm on a big job right now that's more important than yours. I'm not coming out." I'm like, what the heck? How is that even like what the audacity, I'm just like, flabbergasted. I don't even know what to say. Like when that happened, I'm like, it was just so unprofessional. I'm like, man, how could you do that to
Mm.
somebody? You gave me your word, we agreed on it, and then you ghost me. It drove me nuts, dude. And it really just irked me. But that happened, that was with one contractor, but this actually happened two more times after that
Oh,
with two other
no.
contractors. And I'm easy to work with, I'm not
Yeah.
complicated. It's a pretty straightforward job. And this happened two more times after that where
Oh my.
yeah, it was awful. Another big tree guy in my area, he came out, he was easy to talk to. He was a little bit more professionalism and the or he was a little bit more professional in the way he carried himself. But yeah, I mean, he told me like, yeah, we'll get you on the schedule, and here's the price. I think it came in at like 5.5 grand or something, and I said, yeah, sounds good, and then never heard from him after that. Nothing.
And
So
at that point, you got to just be like, all right, am I the bad person? Am I missing something? Or
yeah,
should I
yeah,
just
dude.
like try and break into this market because the opportunity seemed to be there?
Yeah, I definitely thought that was it. I observed an opportunity in my market for professional, respectful land clearing services, and that's
Mm.
what we bring to the table. And nobody else that I was able to work, or no, there was nobody else in my area that was able to offer that. It was just a horrible experience dealing with guys in my area. So I said, yeah, you know what? I'm gonna break into this market and do it. I'm just gonna do it myself.
Yeah,
I'm gonna-
no, it's really cool hearing you tell that story because the community we have here with the dirtbags, usually it's one or two in every area that listen to the show that are the person that wants to change the way it's always been done. And there's always good people in every community, and there's always the people that are slacking, kind of like you're talking about, especially in business. And what I learned early on too is that anyone can be a business owner. It doesn't make you professional or good at what you do. And you learn pretty quickly as you start to meet more business owners that not everyone's created equal. And so there is a lot of opportunity out there, and that is why we are in business. That is why you're in business. That is why everyone listening to this podcast is probably in business right now or wants to be in business. And it's so cool to hear everyone's origin story because there's usually something that irked them or some type of
Yeah.
opportunity that they saw where, hey, like I could probably do that. And then all of a sudden, a few years later, you find yourself running this company. And it's pretty amazing to see.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Mine was built out of frustration.
Yeah. They,
And
man, I love it. And then I gotta ask too. So you you start the
I've actually bid on jobs up against those guys who screwed me over.
oh
So
yeah. And
that's
and
been that was rewarding.
I bet. And you're gonna win some of those, you're gonna lose some of those, and you're going to collaborate on some jobs and you're going to not even talk to each other on others. So it's the nice thing about the online community and going to trade shows and listening to podcasts is that you can talk to people outside of your local market and get bid sheets and get estimates and get templates and get advice from others because uh, sometimes the local market, the guys and gals in there can be brutal and will
For
keep
sure.
everything to their chest. And that's okay too, to a degree. But I know that people, like we always say on the podcast, you collaborate at the top, you compete at the bottom. And typically the ones that do break through and do win in business and in life are open with other leaders and other in other industries as well. So it's really cool to see how you're growing this business, but also, kind of where you want to go with it as well.
Right. Right, definitely.
Man, I love
Yeah.
it. So God's Country Land Services, the name. So it's not you didn't Stone Hughes land management. Like what was the process like of coming up with the name and how'd you land on God's Country?
Everyone uses their name, their initials, JGH excavation or, KST lawn services,
Mhm.
I'm like, I'm not using my initials. I don't think I'm that special to build up this big, company name, with my initials or my last name on it. Um, I just I don't know. I don't want to like deify myself, which that's just my preference. Everyone can go about that their own way. I'm just kind of uncomfortable with attention and, I don't need to be glorified, and, it took some time for my wife and I to figure out what name, we were gonna, call this entity. It took quite some time, it took us probably 2 weeks of
Yeah,
just day in and day out of just figuring out what we're gonna call it. I mean,
just
there was,
bad names.
oh yeah, man. I mean, even every single word in my entity name was carefully and methodically, um, chosen. I mean, you can like land services, earth services, dirt services,
Mhm.
groundworks. I mean, land clearing. There's just so many different, terms that you can use,
Right.
instead of land. But I mean, really, if you're gonna, if you're establishing a business or you want to build something, man, you got to spend some time on on what the name of this company is going to be. It's not something you just,
Mhm.
whip together overnight. I mean, I spent probably 80 hours on just figuring out a name. 80 hours of just like 2 weeks of just brainstorming, pros and cons, crossing it off. Even looking at the acronym, you got to make sure it doesn't
Mhm.
spell out a swear word or something,
Yeah.
ASS or
Yeah.
something.
I feel like that's the most common.
Yeah, or something like that, you just really think about it,
Yeah.
put some thought into it. Don't be sloppy, don't be generic, and do something unique. And why not glorify, Jesus Christ in the process too, you know.
Yeah, that's really cool, man. And I just was there any issues, and I don't even know the answer to this, but were there any issues of getting that name registered with God in the LLC?
No.
Okay, I didn't think so, but I wasn't totally sure. But yeah, it brings up a book recommendation I have. I've mentioned it before on the podcast, but the E Myth Revisited for people listening. It's a really great book if you're looking to start a business or if you own one and you haven't listened to it yet or read the book. The E-Myth Revisited by Michael Gerber. He talks a lot about kind of the switch from, basically building your own job to building a business and building systems. And so, um, really, really great book. He talks a lot about the technician, manager, and entrepreneur, and how you need all three of those in every business, but also how to find out which one you are. And then, really good about building systems in business and how to effectively build a business without burning out by doing everything. So, really, really
Okay.
good book recommendation there. And part of what he talks about is building the name. Trying to do and in excavation and in construction especially, it's very common, so it's not a bad thing to have your name in the title or in the business name. But if you have a clean slate and you're thinking about starting a business, like I've had a lot of people that have their name in the business name saying, I wish my name wasn't in there, because it does make it about you. And as you
Right.
grow and as you scale, sometimes it's nice to have kind of that shield name where it is, God's Country Land Services or Phaser Marketing or,
Right.
something like that, Premier Excavating, where it isn't tied to Luke Egebraten.
Sure.
But like we talked about earlier in the podcast too, that's the beauty of having your own business. You get to do whatever you want. There's
Awesome.
no right or wrong answer there. And but it's really cool to hear the origin of how we all got started, but Stone, especially you, on such a unique start by, the name, the perspective you have, but also the debt-free life that you guys are building in this business. So
Yeah.
you mentioned too about adding a few pieces of equipment through the
Right.
years, saving up for that, and then adding a few crew members potentially. When it comes to, let me ask it this way: when it comes to buying equipment, um, how much do you usually buffer for emergencies, for breakdowns, for as you develop some payroll? Like, do you have a buffer of a certain amount of months in the bank account, or how do you do that when making these financial decisions with cash?
Um, Gosh, man. I mean, early on, I didn't consider that because I bought pretty much everything brand new. So I wasn't
Yeah.
really, and I'm just gonna be honest, man. I bought everything brand new besides my truck.
All right, you dirtbags. Before we dive back into the episode, I want to give another massive shout out to Charlie Huff, our insurance guy. As you guys know, you've heard me talk about him before. Charlie does insurance for construction companies. That's it. He is the man. He grew up in this industry and now he serves excavation and construction companies. But he just makes sure they're covered. If you need to get a free quote from him, shoot him a text, give him a call, see what you can work out with him. He's been a trusted supporter of the Dirtbags podcast and a lot of our listeners. His cell number is 435-764-4833. Make sure you let him know you heard him on the Dirtbags podcast. He will take excellent care of you. So even if you want to compare plans, see if what you're missing, if there's any options for you, he just shoot him a text, give him a call, and he will definitely take care of you. So 435-764-4833. That is Charlie Huff. You can find him on Facebook or, of course, on Instagram at Charlie Huff the Mason. We need to get him to beef up his Instagram though. So if you shoot him a message on Instagram, bust his balls a little bit and tell him, hey, we need to get some more posts going here. But on Facebook, he's crushing it. He just had another baby, so huge congrats to him and his wife and their new baby, Molly. So he might be a little busy, but he's got a great team and he will take great care of you guys. So 435-764-4833. That is Charlie Huff. Now let's get back to the episode with Stone Hughes, episode 104.
And before I even turned the key or even pulled the trailer down the road, I built maintenance schedules, planned maintenance routine schedules, and
Mhm.
logbooks for all my equipment before I even started that machine, I had a whole maintenance logbook already built out for it. So
That's
my plan,
awesome.
my plan going forward was like no breakdowns. And I haven't, to be honest, dude, I haven't had any breakdowns on any of my equipment.
Wow. There's
Yeah,
so
no
many people
breakdowns.
listening, just shaking their head. They're like, "You luckies." So be.
Well, I planned for it, I planned
Yeah.
ahead and there's once these machines hit an hourly interval, you have to
Mhm.
pull it in the garage or in the shop and go through the whole checklist that the manufacturer recommends.
Yeah.
I haven't had any breakdowns. So
When it comes to the business, just as a whole, do you keep a buffer of so like for our business as an example, um, usually we'd try and shoot for about 3 months of expenses in a cushion of like operating expenses just in case like something were to hit the fan and things go south. I try and keep about usually 1 to 3 months of a cushion there.
uh,
And we also operate on cash as well. So do you have any rules of thumb on that at all, or is it just making sure there's a certain padding in there?
yeah, just making sure there's a certain padding in there. I don't have it laid out where it it shows me, how far I can carry out without pulling in any
Sure.
revenue or anything. I just keep I keep a certain amount of money in one account, just to make sure it's basically my discretionary expenses account.
Mhm.
Basically, I can, acquire tools or, if a repair is required on a piece of equipment, which hasn't really happened yet. I had one hose break, but that was my fault, a hydraulic line break. But, I just make sure there's always I probably keep about 6 or 7 grand in that account just to make sure
Mhm.
that I can bob and weave the business through the situations that we go through.
Yeah.
That's basically what okay, I plan to get 30,000 miles out of my trailer tires. Well, they only lasted, 10,000 miles. And in my operating expense account, every mile that trailer rolled down the road, I put like 6 cents, in that account for
Mm.
my trailer tires for 30,000 miles. Well, they failed prematurely at 10,000, so I had to, pull out money out of that discretionary account to cover, the cost of the tires. So stuff like that. I mean, I keep about 6 grand in there, I'd say.
Yeah, interesting. It's almost like a sinking fund where you're already planning for the repairs and to have the money in there. And it sounds like you have it dialed in a spreadsheet of when they should go. But as we all
Yeah.
know, life happens and it might happen early, but you do need a little bit of that buffer. Um, I,
Right.
I got to ask too on this. So there's talked about how you got into it, talked about how, obviously the 145 Google reviews, like a lot of really great things going. Um, have you ever underbid a job or lost money on a job or like, let's dive into
Yeah.
some of that because I think that will, yeah, it's the reality too of the business. And you did talk about it earlier too, of your time being split of, I mean, this is full on business and you're starting to lose some time from family as well. But have you
100%.
ever underbid a job and lost money on a job?
Heck yeah, absolutely. Very,
Tuition.
very early on, dude. It's just it's part of the process of, finding your way and revising your systems and, just massaging your processes. You got to be like water. You got to bob and weave and adjust and, move. You can't be rigid.
Yeah.
You got to learn and adapt.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So tell me about let's just grab an example of maybe one of the first ones you lost money on. How did that happen? Did you just underestimate how long it would take or give me some of that of what did you underestimate?
Yeah, I underestimated the production rate of that job.
Mhm.
So, yeah, it just took a substantial a substantial amount of more time than
Sure.
that I estimated it to be.
It was
And
a forestry mulching job, or what was the
yeah, it
job?
was a forestry mulching job. I was putting in trails on this guy's property. He had like 40 acres. And yeah, I completely missed it.
Just
Um,
eyeballed it and threw a good guess and
no, I didn't even eyeball it, dude. Like I'm all about facts and numbers and calculations. So I understood. When I was speaking with them, I said, okay, how wide do you want your trail and how long do you want it to be? So I measured the width, multiplied it by the length, and I obtained the square foot of the area that I was to clear, and then I converted it to acres. but clearing trails, it takes a lot more time than it does just to clear a flat,
Sure.
easily defined scope of work area, because you're
Sure.
going through vegetation, you're moving around big, keeper trees. So it just took me a lot longer. So like when I measured it out, I think he came in at like total area to be cleared was probably a little under an acre, but it's a 10-foot trail. That's,
Got it.
that's a long trail. I think we measured it, it was over a half a mile. The trail
Wow.
was, yeah, it was a long trail. And it just took a lot longer to go through the woods and clear out that property than it would if it was just like an open field. So anyway, yeah, I completely underbid it, and like halfway through the job, I was looking at my job clock. I'm like,
Like, well,
I'm eating this one, man. This is miserable. Just I'm just seeing the money in my bank account like going in the
yeah.
numbers. Which I mean, it wasn't. I just knew like once I entered in all the numbers, I was not going to be pulling any profit on that, but. I actually pulled the customer aside like after my first day on the job and I said, hey, I got to build a really good relationship with him and the dude was loaded. He had an elevator in his house. The guy had money.
Sweet.
Dude, he was loaded. He was absolutely loaded. And I was kind of nervous about bringing this up to him because I suspected that he may have thought I was trying to pull a fast one on him after seeing his lifestyle. But we were in his garage and actually I kept my equipment at his house overnight. He was super cool. He was a super cool
Mhm.
guy. And I don't blame him for his decision on this, but I pulled him aside and I said, "Hey Steve," I said, what did I say to him? I said, before before you answer this question, I said, my word is more important than money. And I said, regardless of what your response is going to be, I'm still going to complete this job for you at the price that we agreed upon. That's what I told him.
Mhm.
I said, however, I highly underestimated the production on this job, and I'm gonna lose my butt on it. Would you be willing to work with me for a revision on my estimate? And he said no.
Yeah. You
And
know what? I respect that big time. Go Steve. And I think there's situations of course, but he maybe saw young Stone making a bad miscalculation and maybe he saw it as a great tuition lesson of like, Stone, this is going to be good for you anyway and to learn some of these mistakes. Or he just didn't want to pay the extra money. I mean, it could have been either, but I
I'll go with the
yeah,
latter.
right. I know. I'm trying to make it sound like he's just like your mentor and making sure this is a lifelong lesson, but maybe just don't want to spend the extra money.
That's
Uh,
okay. It's all
but
good.
but now you can look back and say, you know, I don't know. What are your thoughts? I mean, do you think you? Let me say it this way: if somebody said that to you, gosh, I would probably help them out.
I
Uh,
would. If I
yeah,
had that guy's money, I'd burn mine. The guy had money, dude, and I absolutely. If someone came to me in the manner that I did when I approached him, I would have said, "That's fine. I'll take care of
yeah,
you."
I would too. And
And he knew
man,
he was getting a deal. He knew he was getting a deal. He knew
that's
it, dude,
awesome.
because I asked him about it too. Because I always have like a post job sales discussion with my customers. I'm kind of revising that, but
Like a
I
walkthrough, kind of
I'm sorry.
like a walkthrough post job, or
Well, no, like so after, I complete a job, I'm loading up my equipment and the customer's happy, give them a hug. I collect, I get paid. And I always ask them. I've been not always, this is something I kind of figured out along the way, but I asked them, did you search around for prices? Was I within, was I within market range? Did you call out any other, contractors to come look at your project? So once we're cool and they're happy, the job's done, I'm paid, I can ask them
yeah,
about that and they're willing to share that with me. I just want to see if I'm, within the range or if I'm, competitive or,
sure.
at the market price. And when I asked Steve that, he said no. He goes, but he goes, once I seen the estimate, he goes, "Pff, for $2,200, you want to come out here for a couple days and clear trails?" He's like, absolutely. And I'm like, yeah, okay. Yeah, I'm
Uh,
sure.
That's great, especially when you're clearing trails. Like it doesn't have to be perfect, right? And so for the price, I mean, he sees that and it's way under. He's like, well, let's see what this kid's got.
Yeah, yeah, he took it for sure. I mean, he approved the estimate in like 2 minutes after I sent it. So
You're like, oops, can I take that back?
yeah, yeah. I'm like, dang it. I meant 3,500, not
Yeah, did
2,200.
did I say 22?
Yeah.
No, dude, that's awesome. I mean, that's just something we all go through too, and that's part of business and life is you make mistakes, you learn from it. I mean, we're always going to make mistakes. We're never going to um avoid those. And part of that too is risk. And as a business owner, we're always taking risks. I think some of us are more risk averse than others, but um I've always been curious to ask this to you. Some people say that, having a job full time is riskier than running a business and vice versa. What are your thoughts on that? Because owning a business is risky, but also you can maybe control a bit more.
Yeah, I mean, hmm. Yeah, it depends on what you wanna consider risk to be.
Yeah,
I would say
true.
that there is way less risk by being an employee and having a,
Yeah.
a good stable job. Way less risk.
Benefits, I mean,
Oh
paycheck, you get a
yeah.
clock out.
Yeah,
Yeah,
way less risk, dude. Gosh, man. Yeah, there's a lot of risk with getting into business, man. But what do you define risk as being? Is it if you're going to be an employee and have a W-2 job, you're going to probably risk having a lot of maybe having some regrets at the end of your life and
yeah.
not striving to become something better.
Yeah, and
It's a risk.
and w this world needs business owner, and this world needs team members and employees, and that is a fact. Like not everyone can be a business owner, and I know a lot of people listening to the podcast right now are business owners or want to be, and you always hear it too. Like sometimes the biggest risk you'll take is not jumping and taking that shot at a business, or as
Right.
Scott Lidster would say, giving it a crack and just trying. And especially if you're in your 20s, like you hear that all the time. If your risk is lower, like not every entrepreneur coming in has the same level of risk. And so if somebody is starting a business and they're 45 with 5 kids and their wife or husband works from home, or sorry, not works from home, stays at home with the kids, it's probably a lot tougher to just jump out on this leap of faith than if you're
Yes,
20, 23, straight out of college, no kids, maybe you have a spouse, maybe not. And it's like, hey, let's give it a crack if you're really interested in it.
absolutely. Yeah, there's a ton of risk, man. When you have family, you're a single income household, and then you want to throw a business idea into the mix, it's extremely risky, dude.
You look
Very
crazy.
risky.
Like whenever, not you specifically, of course, but like entrepreneurs, it's like, what are you talking about? It's like we can't be doing that now. But then when you give it the thought, the time, the effort, and you can see the payoff. It doesn't pay off for everybody, but it absolutely can 100-fold in your time and also the financial payoff as well.
Right, of course. Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. I would say man, if you're a single guy, I wouldn't even say that. Having a good spouse, having a good spouse is going to be a huge factor into your success as a business owner. She's either going to make you or break you. Um, but definitely having kids is gonna make things. It's not going to make owning a business easier. I can tell you that. It'll motivate you to become a better person and to be a better
Mm.
provider, but it's going to be tougher on you for sure.
What do you think as your kids grow up, as they get older? What are your thoughts on your business? Do you want them to potentially take it over? Do you want them to be involved in it? Is it kind of you're there to support them in whatever that looks like? How do you go about that as a parent as they start to get older and you continue to grow the business and they start looking for jobs and careers?
Yeah, I definitely see I definitely see my son becoming a part of this as he already has. I mean, he's 3 years old right now. He's in the machine with me, mulching trees
Really?
and stuff. Yeah, heck yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, he's definitely like last night, threw him in the dually. We had the trailer behind it and we went and dropped off equipment, and it's just yeah, he's with me. He's coming with me on everything. And he's just gonna pick up as we go along, you know.
Yeah,
We're,
that's
do-
that's so awesome.
we're doing guy stuff, He's got to go pee. We go out in the middle of the field, go out in the woods. Here, this is what men do, This is what we're gonna do, and he's gonna be a part of it for sure. The girls, I don't know. I don't really see them getting involved with any type of I mean maybe some administrative work, but this is my journey. Um this has been my dream, and I don't want to push that on them. I think
Yeah,
they're gonna have their own skill set and their own reservoirs of talent that they can bring to the world, that they can offer to the market. Um, and offer something out of their own will. If the boy wants to come along, he can. I mean, he's coming with me to do this stuff, but I'm not. If he finds something that he specializes in, that he loves, that he's passionate about, he wants to pursue that, I'm 100% for it. I'm not pushing this on anybody, on any of my kids. But for now,
yeah.
he's with me because
He's
what
3
else?
and he doesn't have
Yeah,
a
what else is
choice.
he gonna do? Yeah,
Yeah, no, I always think that's so interesting, and got to give a huge shout out to Dervin Whitmer. From Dig It Excavating and Pump That Septic. It's always so cool to see that relationship with family, and I really appreciate the way Dervin does it because he has this business available for them, and they'll learn both his daughters and sons. And everyone involved in his like his friends' high school, and like they can learn hard work by working in the company and in the business. But at the end of the day, too, like as you hit 16, as you hit 18, you become your own person, you become an adult. Like the business is there if you're serious about it and you want to step into that role, um, and work up into the business. But like Dave Ramsey always says, if you're the boss's daughter, if you're the boss's son, you have to work twice as hard. Like nothing gets handed out to you. And I think that's super important too. When you look at having kids and having kids come up into the business, you definitely don't
right.
want that feeling of that culture of, oh, this is the boss's kid. That's why they're the vice president. But it's more of, hey, they worked their butt off to get there and worked through every position they could. But I always think it's super interesting too, because I don't have kids yet, but what that looks like if they don't want to be in the business. And I think that has to be 100% okay because they're also their own person.
That's right. Yeah, I mean, this company, this entity, Phaser Marketing, God's Country, um, it's a reflection of our it's a reflection of our personality, the name of your company, the logo of your company, the name of my company, my logo is a reflection of my personality, and everyone's got, their own twist on life, their own desires. So I would encourage my kids to, do their own thing if that's, what they want to do. Land clearing is extremely dangerous, man. It's very
Yeah,
dangerous. Forestry mulching is extremely dangerous. So, I include them as much as I can, but I'm not gonna force it on him. But the boy, he comes with me and does stuff. He needs to, see, he just needs to be involved with guy activity.
sure.
Yeah.
Learning how
Yeah.
to chop wood, learning how to forestry mulch, learning how to drive the dually. I mean, back up a
Yeah.
trailer.
He was driving the dually last night on our way home.
That's hilarious. Oh
Yeah,
man,
down a dirt road. I had the trailer behind me and I threw him up in the front seat. He was cruising with it. So
that's awesome. I love it.
sure.
So I'd love to, and I know towards the end here we'll have some book recommendations that obviously we love to do every episode. But before we get into that, I thought this was super interesting to bring up. So you your mindset and your studies actually come from a bit of the corporate world. And I believe you studied corporate law. Is that right?
Correct. Yeah. Yeah, I did. I didn't do it through any type of like schooling, but it was
Mhm.
100% self-education.
Yeah. So corporate law, and I know even as you build your business and as you look at risk, as you look at insurance, as you're blanketing things, there's almost, as you're looking at systems, there's this corporate side of it. If you could describe a little bit of maybe that strategy of, what you're bringing in from the corporate world or what you've learned into your business, which is historically about as non-corporate as it gets. I'm just curious to hear how you've successfully implemented some of those strategies. All right, you dirtbags. Before Stone absolutely cooks on some resources in the legal field, I want to make sure you know this is not legal advice. This is just ideas and resources from books and things that Stone and myself have learned. If you're listening to this, definitely, I want to state the obvious. You got to consult with an attorney if you're going to do any of this. Don't take a podcast word for it. So just want to make extra sure we're, like how I like to say, crossing our I's and dotting our T's, making sure that you guys are taking the steps. If you hear something on the podcast, make sure you're consulting with a professional, especially a lawyer, if when we're talking about corporate veil and when we're talking about anything legal related. So normally I wouldn't bring that up, but because we dive a bit deeper into there and provide some resources, just want to make sure you guys know. Always consult with an attorney, and that goes for the money stuff too. Get a good CPA in your corner, get a good tax person, and make sure that you have a good team around you. So, huge thanks to Stone as we dive into it here, into a bit of the corporate talk and some of the legal specifics when it comes to his company. Let's dive into it.
Yeah, so maintaining your corporate veil, it consists more of filing your articles of organization with your state every year, and not not commingling your funds. I mean, there's a lot of corporate formalities that you need to follow if you want a strong corporate veil in the eyes of the the corporate, I mean, judicial system or whatever.
Mhm.
There's a handful of things that you have to do to maintain that corporate veil. A lot of people think it's just like, okay, keep your personal and business money separate and file your articles every year. There's a ton more that goes into it. Besides that, I mean, you need to have a company record book. You need to have an operating agreement. You need to have certificates of stocks if you're incorporated. Um, there's, you need to have meeting minutes annually. You need to have special meetings and have minutes, have all these minutes of these meetings documented and inserted into your corporate company binder in your company book. So
I've
yeah,
got
you
a,
got to do that.
I've got a question, sir.
Yep.
Uh, Walk it back a little bit for me. The meeting minutes, are you a corporation?
I am an LLC,
Okay,
so I'm not a
LLC. So
corporation.
most people and most companies that are listening are LLCs or an S corp. We're an S corp. What I'll just say it blatantly as obvious as possible. Like, what do you mean by meeting minutes and needing to submit those? Because I also don't know what that is.
So to maintain your corporate veil and to have a strong veil of protection on your business, you need to conduct at the minimum, you need to have an annual meeting once a year. You have to have an annual meeting once a year, and it's like I'm an LLC. I have a meeting with myself. I know it sounds silly, but
Hmm.
it looks extremely good in the eyes of corporate law. Like if you were to get sued, you brought this company record book in, you laid it out in front of the judge, he's going to be like, yeah, you guys cannot, this corporate veil cannot be pierced. So what you need to do is have meetings on an annual basis, and you need to record the conversations or the discussions that took place during this meeting. And then you need to keep them in your corporate record book. But the discussions are going to basically Gosh, I wish I had my book with me. I could tell you a little bit more detail. But it's
So,
gonna
and maybe we'll take it one more step back. Like, what is a corporate veil?
a corporate bail is gonna be the layer of protection that the state is gonna give you in the event of a lawsuit. So if your corporate
Mm,
bail is maintained and someone tries to sue your business, but you did not adhere to those corporate formalities, as well as you should have, that veil is going to be weakened, and then that the person who's trying to sue you can get you personally, can go beyond the corporate veil and
right.
attack you personally and get Luke Egerbratten's assets.
Yeah. Okay. Yes. I'm tracking now with that because one of my good friends and current clients, long time ago, it was one of those situations where they were getting sued, and it was like, yeah, come at us, no big deal, whatever. And then somehow, and I think this is also where you're alluding to, they were able to potentially pierce the veil and go after all the personal assets, which is like him and his wife and their
Yep.
kids and all those assets. And then it became way more serious. So uh yeah, this is a topic we've never talked about on the podcast. I think it's very interesting, Stone, because it is something that, and maybe I'm speaking for everyone here and I shouldn't be, I feel like most of us don't think about and don't know how to think about. So what would you, where do we learn this stuff, and where can we find like the best resources? Is it simple or is it complex? Like, do we need to hire somebody, or what are your, I know you self-taught yourself, so what are your thoughts there?
If you got some time, try to save money if you can. I mean, I was blessed with some free time to study up on this before, I built my entity up. There's a couple things I could have done. I wish I could have done, knowing what I know now, but I think my bail is still pretty strong. But yeah, I took a deep dive into, so we've all heard of Robert Kiyosaki with Rich Dad Poor Dad, right?
Yep.
So his corporate attorney, his name is Garrett Sutton, and he is on the team of the Rich Dad Advisors Group. So him and Robert Kiyosaki are like super tight, and that's who Robert uses to maintain his corporate veils for all of his companies. I mean, he's probably got 100. I mean, he's probably got thousands of LLCs for his rental properties, but
Wow.
I know he uses Garrett Sutton's law firm to maintain and adhere to his corporate veil. But I would take a deep dive into Garrett Sutton's books. Yeah, I'm trying to think. It's been a while since I read them because I did this when I formed my LLC in 21. But Start Your Own Corporation by Garrett Sutton, Run Your Own Corporation by Garrett Sutton. Um, I wish I had my MP3 player with me. I can give you a couple more names. But look them up.
Hmm.
There's a ton of Fail Not Fail. That's another one by Garrett Sutton.
Veil not fail.
Yep, Fail Not Fail.
Hmm.
Yep.
Interesting. Yeah, I haven't read any of Garrett Sutton's books, so these are great, great resources. Sounds like this is what he specializes in.
Yeah, it's corporate law for sure.
Okay, interesting. And it what surprises me and what's very interesting is that most of the time we think, oh yeah, this is for big corporations, right? But you're an LLC getting rolling, been doing it a couple years, and the size of most of our listeners, if not smaller, and how this is such a big focus for you too. And I think it's super interesting. Do you feel like, so it sounds like you can kind of build it up over time, and that there's certain things you can do to strengthen it and improve it in the
Yeah,
judicial system, or
yeah, I would say so. You need to have gosh, I wonder if I can rip through my computer here and find some references. So I keep everything on my PC,
yeah.
but starting off with reading those books is gonna help out a lot.
Yeah, and
Um,
that was Garrett Sutton. Yeah, it sounds like there's quite a few books that he has that would be great resources.
yeah.
All right, you dirtbags. You know we couldn't have this podcast without our friends supporting us at Eljen Corporation. This episode of the Dirtbags podcast is brought to you by none other than Eljen, a pioneer in on-site wastewater treatment and a company built on purpose. Not only that, one of my favorite things, as you guys have heard me talk about, is their support for veterans that have fought for our country, helping them transition from deployment to deployment in civilian life, and really giving them a place where they feel honored and they feel at home where they can work and build a career. Elgin's entire tech team, if you go check out their website, elgin.com, you'll see their entire tech team is based up of is made up of veterans for this country. So can't thank them enough for all that they do for the wastewater industry, how they're really pioneering the industry, but also, of course, what they do for the men and women of our country. So thank you, Elgin, for supporting the Dirtbags podcast. Drew Nikolai, we had our 4th of July episode with him. We talk a lot about the inner workings of Elgin, and just can't thank them enough for their support. So if you reach out to them, elgin.com is their website, or of course you can give them a follow. Give them a follow on Instagram at Elgin Corporation. Let them know you heard them on the Dirtbags podcast. Now, back to the episode. It sounds like you did just find Garrett's stuff there.
Yes, I did. I'm logged in my Audible account, and he was actually one of the books that I read from Garrett Sutton. Um, I think it was Fail, Not Fail. He
Mm,
basically explains in the book, like it's a really cool. Well, I download the book through Audible, so I just listen to him when I drive. But Fail, Not Fail was probably one of my most favorite ones because he gives a bunch of he gives like a handful of he gives a handful of examples of these businesses that conduct in certain activities, and they're all made up. It's just for teaching purposes, but he'll explain a story about a business, what they did, and how they had to change their company name because another company or another entity in a different state had a registered trademark, and then they got sued, and it like walks you through the whole judicial system of how a judge views these positions of a business entity under these situations. So
mhm.
that one was my favorite, and that one was the one that encouraged me to get my business name trademarked with the United States Patent and Trademark Office. So that one was huge, and that
Interesting.
adds a lot of value to my name too. Um, yeah, so basically nobody in the United States can take that name from me if they're offering similar services or services
Mhm.
that overlap with what I do. If
Is
they
that
do that, I can sue them and take them to court or whatever, but that's a whole nother topic.
Yeah, is that just on the name or is that the name and logo or are those typically separate?
Those are separate.
Yeah, gotcha. So it's
Yeah.
on the name. So the trademark would be on the name. Um, man, that's
You
cool.
can
So and you
You can do a word trademark, which is what I have, and you can do an image trademark as well, which I got to get that going because I see some people trying to take my logo, and some people have done some really
really
similar logo. Oh yeah, yeah, and I've got thousands of dollars into that logo, and I'm not letting anybody take that from me. So
wow. Yeah, there you go. I mean, protecting yourself, protecting the business.
yeah,
Um, and I gotta hear it too, Stone. So obviously, like you mentioned, you're on Audible, big reader, or I guess listener.
listener.
What other books are you into? This is our favorite segment, the book recommendations. Uh, what other books would you recommend to the Dirtbags listening? Anything that you found super helpful? And it's super interesting too. Thank you for bringing up some of these resources on your corporate veil, with Garrett Sutton. Any others that you'd recommend that you've found really helpful?
Yeah, I mean, first and foremost, I'm always going to go to the Bible because that's the source of
Mhm.
all wisdom and all knowledge. There's not a piece of the Bible that if you don't apply it to your life that it's anything in the Bible that you apply to your life, it's going to improve your life greatly. So,
Mm,
that first and foremost. There's a ton of mentors and influencers and Andy Elliott's and Grant Cardone's and all that wisdom stems from a biblical basis. So that's the
mm,
main source of everything right there. Um, Underneath that, I would say um, there's a really good book. It's It's an Audible by Bob Proctor. It's called You
Hmm.
Were Born Rich, and it's a seminar that he taught back in the probably in the 80s.
Hmm.
Well, the recording that I have was him doing a seminar in the 80s, but he's done the same seminar over the course of probably 25, 30 years across the world. That one's been my favorite. I probably listened to that more than any other um any other book ever before. Because as you grow as a person and you become more aware of things, you will re-listen to a book and you will pay attention and pick up on things that you didn't hear in the past. But
Yeah.
that's just because you've become somebody different than who you were, and you see things that you weren't able to see before.
Yeah.
So, and
Right
that
on.
happened a lot with that book, a lot. There was a ton in there, and after I, listened to it over and over again, it's like, wow, this is new, this is new, and it's just a constant evolving thing. So, definitely, You Were Born Rich by Bob Proctor, and then Think and Grow Rich too by Napoleon Hill.
Hmm.
That one was a big one, and
Man, good stuff.
discovering what the secrets are.
Yeah. Had you always been a reader, or did this come as you got more interested in business?
I read Think and Grow Rich. My stepdad gave me that book when I was 13 years old, and I read it when I was 13. I love reading, dude. I haven't
Mm.
read as much as I used to before I started God's Country because I just had a lot more time at my day job.
Yeah.
I had a lot of free time at my day job. And I was never scrolling. I was never, engaging in meaningless conversations. I was always in the books, always studying. Um, so I used to be a big reader. I'm more of a listener now, but I'm just so busy with running the business. It's kind of
Yeah.
my reason right now. But yeah, Think and Grow Rich is a huge one. If you can figure out, what he's talking about in like the first quarter of that book, you'll be
Yeah.
all right.
Yeah. Man, that's awesome. Stone Hughes, God's Country Land Services. Go give them a follow on Instagram. For all of those still listening here deep in the episode. Stone, I'm so glad we got to have you on. It's been so fun, such a blast getting just to dive into things I knew we would talk about and things I really wanted to touch on, and also going down paths that I had no idea of, even like with some of this. This corporation talk too has been really exciting and really cool to dive into. So thank you for your transparency. Thank you for your wisdom. Thank you for being on the show, man, and just being such a light to others and such a great friend, a great client of ours. But man, I'm just so excited to continue on this journey with you, and I can't thank you enough for doing this, man.
Yeah, yeah, I'm honored. I'm truly honored. You're all over my fridge in the kitchen. The kids got your stickers in their rooms. My son's wearing your hat like every day.
That's wicked.
You're our family, 100%. So
Appreciate that a ton, man. That's so awesome. I'm so excited to come out and see you guys and really meet in person there. Um,
Black Tie
and
Gala, I gotta get on one of those.
Black Tie Gala, October 30th, Thursday. It's at Detroit Mountain in Detroit Lakes, Minnesota. If anyone wants to come, let me know. It's in my hometown. Our whole team is going to be there. Hopefully, Stone Hughes will be there in a black tie, looking sharp. Stone, thank you, man. I'm so excited to get this episode published. So excited to hear what everyone thinks. And go give them a follow on Instagram. We're excited to see you guys on the next one. This is episode number 104. Stone, thanks again, man.
Okay, awesome, Luke. Thank you.